As I was telling you earlier, the Philippines is doing relatively well in this global crisis, but that's small comfort to the average Filipino who feels higher prices for the food that he or she has to buy, for the gasoline that he or she has to buy. So therefore, one big challenge that we have to address is how the impact is on the poor and the ordinary Filipino. So it's very important for us to be able to make sure that the global crisis does not become a crisis in our country. But in order to do that, we need to have resources. And if we had not made hard choices several years ago to be able to raise the revenue, then we would not be able to address that challenge. But since we did, on the price of rice, for instance, early on, we were able to make sure of the stable supply of rice by buying from our farmers as well as from the foreign market. And we were able to have subsidized rice for the poorest of the poor, distributed through churches, NGOs, and local governments. And as far as energy is concerned, we were able to help transport groups so that they don't increase the price of transportation too much. And we were also able to lift the tariffs temporarily on oil products. But we couldn't do any of those if we did not have the revenues that came with our painful reforms of the past several years. So the biggest challenge is really not what steps to take, but the resources to be able to carry out those steps. So is this applicable to other countries? Certainly the steps are applicable, but the challenge would be, were they able to do their homework beforehand to be able to have a strong fiscal position to do all this? Well, in the Philippines, we're not a major contributor to climate change. We contribute less than 1%. But we do our part. And if you talk about financing, because our needs are small compared to India, China, US, we find the carbon credit mechanism very useful, and I hope that it can be extended beyond the period of the Kyoto Protocol. For instance, I've seen carbon credits being used by Toyota to reforest the northern part of our longest mountain range. I've seen carbon credits being used to transform methane from our garbage dumps into power. So this is for those with not such big needs. I think the carbon credit mechanism is very useful. I've been in fora where the carbon credit mechanism is made fun of, that it's not useful. It's very useful for the Philippines. And while we look for other means of financing, I hope we can retain that means.